Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over a major tornado risk for parts of the southern and southeastern part of the country. We already have a high risk of severe weather in place. This is the first high risk since May 20th, 2019, and that was over parts of Oklahoma and Texas. This time it's over parts of Alabama and Mississippi. We have a moderate risk as well that spans all the way from Arkansas and Louisiana into the Carolinas, and that also extends into tomorrow. So this is a multi-day, potentially tornadic severe risk. We've already had 2 tornado warnings and 16 severe thunderstorm warnings just this morning, so definitely it's already getting underway. We're going to be tracking it for you guys, giving you fairly live and updated updates for this severe weather event. We're going to be giving you personal forecasts in the comments. If you have any questions or you want a personal forecast, just leave a comment down below and I'll reply to you guys, usually within about an hour or two of you posting that comment. So here's what the current National Weather Service page looks like. I'm going to go through this quickly because we have a lot to get through in today's video. We have winter storm watches and winter storm warnings in effect for Northern California, as well as wind advisories for parts of Northern California and Southern Oregon. We have more wind advisories and high wind warnings in effect for parts of the south central United States and parts of the southeast as well. We have blizzard warnings and winter weather advisories in effect for parts of the panhandles of Texas and Oklahoma, as well as northwestern Oklahoma. And then we have some red flag warnings in effect for southern Texas as well. We have flood watches in effect for parts of Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, and Kentucky. And we have some tornado watches also in effect for parts of Tennessee, Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas, and I would not be surprised if those get expanded further to the south as well as we go through time and as we get closer to the bulk of the severe weather. And I'm also going to skim over the records yesterday. You can read them in the bottom left if you are interested, but again, just in the name of conserving time here, I'm going to just move on to the tornado watches currently because we have a lot to get to in today's video. Here's where the tornado watches are, and you can see that they're mainly over parts of the southeastern United States, over parts of Texas, even a little bit Texas, a little bit of Louisiana, Arkansas, into parts of Mississippi and Tennessee as well. And again, those are likely going to be expanded further to the south and further to the east as well as those storms start to approach those areas a little bit more. We have a mesoscale discussion in effect, and what they're talking about here is potentially putting up a PDS watch, which is a particularly dangerous situation watch. They rarely put those out, maybe 1, 2, 3 times per year. So when they do put one out, that's a fairly rare event and you really want to be paying attention. And they're saying that they're going to put it out maybe by 17Z, which in central time that would be right around 12 p.m. Today. So they would put that out depending either from 12 p.m. today, which has already passed, all the way potentially to the evening hours. Anytime within that time period, they might actually start to put up some PDS tornado watches, and they're also talking about tornadic supercells potentially moving throughout this area, highlighted in the red right here for central Alabama and central and southern Mississippi as well. Here's what the current radar looks like, and I'm recording this right around 1 p.m. Eastern time, which would be right around 12 p.m. Central Time. We're dealing with a line of storms back through parts of Texas, Arkansas, and even into southern Tennessee and northern Alabama as well. This area right here is overperforming right now, but that's going to head out further to the north. What I'm actually more concerned about is not these big storms further to the north right here, but what I'm actually concerned about is this right here. So it doesn't look too impressive right now. It's just fairly light, moderate storms, not even associated with too much lightning in these areas. But what I am worried about is that we already have a strong southerly flow in parts of the lower parts of the atmosphere. So that's coming out of the surface. The surface winds are out of the south in all of these areas, but then you start to switch directions as you get some height in the atmosphere. So as you go aloft, those winds are now coming out of the west-northwest, somewhat like this. So now they're converging, and that's how you get wind shear. So the biggest area for wind shear, in my opinion, would be the area that's right through here, where we have a fairly good shot of seeing some decent wind shear. You're getting winds coming out of the Gulf of Mexico. You're getting cold, dry air coming out of the northwest. And that's going to create some spin in the atmosphere, and that's how you get some tornadoes to start developing, unfortunately. And you can already see that they're actually outperforming what we were expecting already over parts of central and southern Mississippi, a little bit of Alabama as well. And as this line of storms starts to head further to the east, it's going to converge with these more pop-up storms coming out of the south. That's when we're going to start to see more supercell type activity, where you get tiny little cells of heavy rain and thunderstorm activity. If we look at the categorical risk from the Storm Prediction Center, we have a moderate risk in effect anywhere in that red, and then again we have that high risk, and I'm going to repeat it right here, the first high risk since May 20th 2019. So they don't issue these willy-nilly. They really are very conservative when they put out these high risks. They really don't like to put them out too much. So we have that high risk in that pink for parts of Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Arkansas. Again, this is a once every 2, 3, 4 year type of event, so really want to pay attention. This might be the last time this severe weather season that we actually see a high risk go into effect. And if we look at the tornado outlook currently, we have a 30% chance in that purple, that light pink or purple kind of color there, and then we have that significant risk for anywhere within that black hatched region. That's where we're looking at the threat of EF2 to EF5 tornadoes in those areas, and many of the local National Weather Services through parts of central Mississippi, central Alabama, a little bit of Louisiana and Arkansas are also talking about potentially seeing golf ball size hail, maybe even lime size hail. I believe from the Birmingham, Alabama National Weather Service office, I believe they were talking about potentially lime size hail, which I believe is 2.75 inches in diameter. So that's very large hail. If you can put a tarp over your car or anything valuable that's outside that you really don't want to get damaged, or try and put it, if you have a garage, put it in the garage for today, because this is going to be a fairly big hail producer as well. Here's your hail outlook. Speaking of hail, we have a significant risk of seeing some 2-inch or greater hail in that black hatch region, 30% chance of hail in general, anywhere in that red. If we look at the wind outlook for today, we have a significant hatched region. I believe that is for the chances of seeing 65 knot or greater wind gusts in those areas. So that covers much of the southeastern United States from the Gulf Coast northward. And then if we shift this over to tomorrow, we actually have a moderate risk, which actually caught me off guard when I woke up this morning and checked the Storm Prediction Center. I was actually surprised that they put up a moderate risk for tomorrow, but they did indeed do that for the Carolinas and into Georgia. They have a moderate risk of severe weather. If we look at the individual risks, here's your tornado risk for tomorrow. We have a significant tornado risk for EF2 or to EF5 tornadoes anywhere in the Carolinas and into eastern Georgia, with a 30 or actually 15% chance of tornadoes in that red area right there. Here's the hail outlook, and we have a 30% chance of seeing hail, so a fairly decent shot anywhere in the red, and that covers much of the Carolinas and eastern Georgia as well. And then here's that wind risk, and we have a 45% chance, which is only one short of the highest risk that they possibly have on their website. And this is a 45% chance in that light purple area for parts of the Carolinas and into east central Georgia as well. So really, if you're in that area or if you're anywhere within the severe weather area, make sure that you are taking precaution and watching this system play out closely. Here's what the NAM3CAM model is showing for the Futurecast radar. So it's showing that this line of storms, which was back here, which we showed you on the radar, is going to break apart, and then that's going to turn into kind of more individual type of storms. And this is a lot more dangerous than even a very ferocious line of storms moving to the east, because these individual storm cells, kind of like this, are what bring tornadoes, because it has room to kind of breed a tornado, to make a tornado in those areas, and that's really not a good sign. So this would be by 4 p.m. Central Time later today. So in another 3 or so hours, we're dealing with fairly heavy thunderstorm moving through parts of Alabama, back through Louisiana and Arkansas. Again, this is just one model, but most of the models have something similar to this by this point. And if we continue this forward, let's go to right around 7 p.m. tonight, and this would be in Central Time, of course, and we're looking at in northern Mississippi, northern Alabama, dealing with some strong, gusty thunderstorms. We're now starting to see somewhat of a north-south alignment of these storms, where you're kind of seeing these storms set up from southern Louisiana all the way up through Mississippi there. And if we continue this forward a little bit, here to be by 10 p.m. Central Time today, we're dealing with those storms still rolling through parts of Alabama and Mississippi. Then, as we move through into right around 1 a.m. Central Time tomorrow, we're dealing with scattered storms, still severe in a lot of these areas. We're dealing with a fairly heavy rain in many of these areas, and even if you're just in that yellow or orange type of area in the rain zone, that's still something that you want to worry about, because even if you're not dealing with heavy rain, you don't need rain to form a tornado. You just need the right ingredients in terms of wind shear and also enough energy in the atmosphere to spawn up a tornado. You really don't need any rain at all to spawn up tornadoes. You can have tornado without any rain. So just because you're not seeing any heavy depictions of rain in your area does not mean that you're not dealing with tornadic activity potentially at that same time. So again, monitor your phone, especially when you get that tornado warning, or if you get that tornado warning or a severe thunderstorm warning for that matter. Take shelter, because a tornado warning means that you either have a storm chaser on the ground that spotted a tornado, or a potential funnel cloud which could become a tornado, or you have probable cause from radar indication that there is a tornado. So when you get a tornado warning, it's not just kind of they're assuming there's a tornado. It's a fairly high likelihood, a pretty good chance that there is actually a tornado in your area. So you want to take shelter, go to the interiormost part of your house, go to your basement if you have one. If you have a tornado shelter, even better, try and go to there and just kind of stay safe from the storms. Here to be by 4 p.m. or 4 a.m. Eastern Time or 4 a.m. Central Time. Tomorrow we're dealing with a line of very gusty storms moving through Alabama and Tennessee by this point. That heads further to the east by 7 a.m. And then here to be by 11 a.m. Eastern Time, we're dealing with fairly strong storms moving throughout parts of central Georgia back through the Carolinas right here. And this is what starts to bring up your line of storms that's going to be the main severe weather threat for tomorrow in parts of the Carolinas. So you can see that heads further to the east. It doesn't look too impressive on the NAM model, although if you look at the individual tornado parameters and individual severe thunderstorm parameters, they are much more impressive. So I think the radar display isn't really picking up on this, but I think it could be a little bit more severe than what you're seeing on your screen right now. I don't think the NAM is really handling this situation too well. You can see that line of storms, maybe a few weak embedded tornadoes within that do start to spawn up over these areas as you get into the later evening hours. And the main threat in the Carolinas is going to be, especially if you live within this area, is going to be from the early afternoon all the way through about the late evening hours. So right around 1 to 10 p.m. is going to be when you want to be on fairly high alert for any thunderstorm or any thunderstorm warnings or tornado warnings that you do get on your phone, or if you see it on the TV. Make sure you are taking shelter when you do see those warnings go up. Here's the expected temperatures from the National Weather Service tomorrow. Your high temperatures, or actually today, we're looking at high temperatures today that are going to be in the mid and upper 70s, even a few 80s, all the way up into central and northern Mississippi. So we really have no lack of warm air for today. And if you go to tomorrow, again, no lack of warm air. We have 70s all the way up, even crossing over into the Appalachians. Even the higher elevations are dealing with 70s and upper 60s at least in those areas. So we're really not dealing with any shortage of warm air, and that's really not going to be the issue here. If you look at the dew point, we also have enough moisture in the atmosphere. We have dew points in the 70s, so that's extremely humid air that we're working with, and definitely no issue. That's for today. Here's for tomorrow, and we also have dew points above 60, which is generally what I like to use as the threshold for seeing severe weather, and we definitely have mid 60s, even a few upper 60s as you get further to the south. So really no shortage of humid or warm air in the atmosphere. Here's your Cape, and the Cape isn't going to be too impressive. But also it's gonna be the only thing that's not impressive, I guess is what I could say, because every other parameter is maxed out pretty much for the severe weather event. If we look at the Cape, you can see that even this is fairly high. We have 2,500, 3,000 Cape in joules per kilogram in these areas, even up to 3,500 in some of those areas, and you can see that Even though we're dealing with maybe 1,000 to 2,000, you really only need 500 to spawn up a good thunderstorm and decent thunderstorm. So once you get above 1,000, closer to 2,000, that's when you're dealing with ample CAPE in the atmosphere. So even though it doesn't look too impressive, you are still dealing with a good amount of CAPE. And even into tomorrow, we're still dealing with a lot of CAPE and energy in the atmosphere. And by the way, CAPE stands for Convective Available Potential Energy. It just measures how much energy is in the atmosphere. And over the Carolinas and Georgia for tomorrow, we have ample CAPE for this severe weather event. If we look at the supercell composite parameter, the SCP, this is showing you how likely it is for a supercell to develop, or basically a very robust thunderstorm to develop. And you can see those values are very high, right over that same area that is going to be under that high risk of severe weather. And I think this might be one of the reasons, because we have SCP values that are closer to 20, which you see in the top right. The max is around 20, so that's very, very high. And when you get those types of numbers, you know that you have a very, very favorable atmosphere, not only for tornadic supercells, but just generally a fairly strong supercell or thunderstorm to develop. And if we shift that over to tomorrow, also fairly high, you only really need above a 2 or a 3, and we're definitely above that. We're at maybe 6 to, I would say probably 6 to 12 in a lot of these areas for the SCP, even a few areas that are higher than that over the Carolinas and eastern Georgia, as well as southern Virginia for tomorrow. And that's going to wrap it up for today's video. I will be, again, giving you forecasts and updates in the comment section. So if you have any questions, if you want a forecast, leave a comment down below. And again, I'll try and respond to you guys typically within about an hour or two. And I try to get back to you guys as soon as I see it and as fast as I can, so that I can keep you guys updated and informed. Stay safe with all this tornadic activity, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.